All right, what's going on, everybody? We got some breaking news here. Well, really not breaking. It's really been out for over 12 hours. But Kirk Cousins is going to make his first start of the season tomorrow against the Dolphins. Obviously, getting down to it. Game starts at 1 tomorrow, so I won't be on here long. But yeah, obviously we heard that Michael Penix was questionable all week. He was limited all week with this so-called bone bruise, which really is not an injury I've heard of much. And it appears as if Kirk Cousins will be making the start tomorrow. So yeah, that's just an update. I did mention a little bit about it in the preview video. I said regardless, I still stand by it. As far as tomorrow goes, whether you had Kirk Cousins or whether you had Michael Penix, you should win this game tomorrow. You should win this game. There's no excuse to losing to a one-win Dolphins team that has the wheels falling off, the van's on fire, the coach's ass is already has third-degree burns from how hot a seat is. There's no excuse to lose to this team tomorrow. This is a team that just lost to the Browns after scoring 6 points. They've been relatively awful all season. You shouldn't lose tomorrow, but we all know how the Falcons are. We know how they are when you have a game that you clearly should not lose. So as far as tomorrow goes, I truly think whether Kirk or Penix, this is a game that you should win. I think that kind of goes into now. Look, I've made it pretty clear that I do not. The last thing the Falcons need is a quarterback carousel, quarterback drama, quarterback controversy for what would really be now the 4th season in a row. But at the end of the day, I want my quarterback healthy. My quarterback's Michael Penix, and that's his team's quarterback. At least that's who they need to roll with. That's who they spend a first round pick on. That's who you need to roll with. Now, as far as what a lot of people are saying could come out of this game, because that's what I think I'm more looking at. Not so much of what will happen in the game tomorrow, because if we can't beat the Dolphins, honestly, that's not a quarterback issue. That is, I think, a coaching and a team issue in general. So I would expect the Falcons to beat the Dolphins tomorrow, but really the conversation we already need to prepare for is what's coming out of it. Are we going to get, just, okay, Kirk made this what I think it should be? What I would honestly hope it is, okay, everyone's talking about Kirktober. We know that Kirk Cousins' favorite month is October. That's the one month that he decides to ball out. We saw it last year. He did it in Minnesota. That is his month. So I will fully expect that Kirk is going to come out tomorrow, and he's going to probably play a pretty damn good game. I would not be shocked if I saw Kirk play the best game we've seen out of the quarterback position all season here. And I also wouldn't be shocked if we see Zach Robinson call one of the best games we've seen him call this year. It just feels like, number one, you're facing an absolutely awful Dolphins team, and number two, you're going to use this as a showcase spot. Now, a lot of people are talking about, this could be an audition for Kirk being traded, a team potentially picking up the phone and trading for Kirk, and that could definitely be a possibility. But at the end of the day, you got to be real with yourself. There's really only one team that I think is actually is seriously in a position to potentially trade for Kirk Cousins at the deadline. That's Minnesota, and that depends, I think, on how they do their next game with McCarthy. At the end of the day, I think this, of course, things could change. Kirk could come and ball out this game. And really, the other thing, Kirk has a no trade clause. That's probably the only team Kirk would be willing to waive that no trade clause to. So my thing is this: I don't think we're gonna see Kirk. I don't necessarily think this is a audition for it to get trade stock up. I really don't. What I personally think this is, what I hope this is at least, is just okay. You don't want to take a risk with your young quarterback, and that be that. We can't brought Kirk in. This is not, listen, this Miami game tomorrow is not a game you need to risk anybody's health with. Some more news came out. It's not just Michael Penix. Drake London is now questionable tomorrow with a hip injury that I don't know where it came from. I don't know where it popped up in practice, but he is now questionable with a hip injury for tomorrow. So we could very well be without our quarterback and our top wide receiver. So at the end of the day, look, it's going to be one of those games. It's not going to be it could be a very flashy game for Bijan Robinson, but it's not going to be a very flashy game, I think, tomorrow. It's going to be a game you come out, you take care of business, you get a win. You move on after that. That's how tomorrow needs to be approached with. You need to come out and look like a better team. I don't care if you have Kirk or Penix out there. This is a game you should win. This is not a game you risk anything for. You don't risk this just to stat pad and make the stats look good. So I do think that I got to give the Falcons credit for at least not making the same mistake 2 seasons in a row. And when they need to pull the quarterback out and let him heal and recognize that he is injured, it's definitely good to see this coaching staff do the right thing for once, the thing they didn't do last year. Now, I'm warning y'all right now. I'm warning y'all. Kirk comes and balls out tomorrow. You're going to hear the conversation about should we keep him in. Here's a couple things I'm going to look at tomorrow. Number one, obviously how Kirk looks, how comfortable he looks. Listen, Kirk Cousins has had nearly a year of rest. I fully expect that Kirk Cousins tomorrow is probably going to feel the most healthiest he has felt in 2 years playing football. That is probably going to mean that, for all we know, Zach Robinson is going to open up and call the best game of the season. If you're willing to do that for Kirk, but you're not willing to work with Penix and play to his strengths, that is going to really, I think, call into question your ability as a coach. If you're not going to play to Penix's strengths, but you're going to come out and play to Kirk's strengths. Because now it's going to create an unnecessary conversation that we're going to end up having to hear for a 4 straight season that we should not have to hear. Which is, should the Falcons make a quarterback change? And the answer is, unless Michael Penix is more injured than they are actually leading on, which it's kind of funny because throughout the week, we were hearing, obviously from Penix and then from Raheem Morris, that they feel good about Penix playing on Sunday. But then we hear on Friday, we don't know. We're ramping up the reps for him. Then we hear this morning, and we just heard it now be official, that Kirk is going to start. So now it raises the question once again, what really changed? Is it as simple as you just saw Penix during the week? Or was it something else? See, that's where we can't fully trust what comes out of these people's mouths. We got a bunch of snake oil salesmen in Flowery Branch right now. We can't trust what is coming out of these people's mouths until they prove to us otherwise, and they haven't proven yet. So, once again, is this just what it's supposed to be? Is this just, okay, we're sitting Penix out? We're going to, and for the people who want Penix on the bench, you're gonna get what you want this week. You're gonna get to see Kirk. I know y'all have been waiting to bring your white asses from the north side down to the bench so you can see a white quarterback. And you're gonna see Kirk ball out tomorrow. You're gonna see him swag surf. You're gonna get all that. But is this something deeper? Now, going back to Penix for a second, He's gonna get the chance to actually, once again, he's gonna get the chance to heal, which is most important. He's gonna get the chance to see things a little differently. He's gonna get a chance to really see the game, because there's things Penix needs to work on. There's pocket presence, footwork. He's gonna get to see these things. He's gonna get to work on them. And you can't have an injury lingering around, especially with us already being past the bye week and the gauntlet we have down the stretch late in the season that will determine if this team is playing playoff football or not. So look, this is not a game you risk tomorrow. You bring Kirk out there, you let him start, you let him have fun, you get the win. But then after that, it's really down to business. Because what the Falcons do next week is really going to show us a lot. Is this actually just, okay, we're letting Penix rest and we're letting him heal, which honestly, I'm not going to get too ahead of myself. I would think is the case. You're just letting him heal. You're just letting him rest. And during that, and it's just a convenient opportunity to kind of let him see things a little differently. Make some quick adjustments for later in the season and grow. Because as we know, for young quarterbacks, commonly it isn't until about their 12th or 13th start you really start to see it fully click, which is what Penix is about approaching. He's pretty close to that. So you would like to think it's that. Now, there's always the possibility, we saw it last year, that if Kirk ends up balling out tomorrow, could this be their excuse to try and do something that they think will save their jobs and try to make a long-term change? And I hope that's not the case, because I'm going to say this. I truly think that this is absolutely a game any quarterback could win you. But Kirk Cousins, yes. Could he win you a game? Yes. But I'm still going to stand by it. I truly think that Michael Penix still gives this team the best chance to win. He does. He can do more. They just won't let him do it. And at the end of the day, some of this is a Michael Penix issue, but also a lot of this is a coaching issue. It's a Zach Robinson issue. Because how come, and look, for all we know, we might see them come out tomorrow with the exact same game plan. We may not see Kirk under center one bit. We might see the same game plan of running it with Bijan, running it with, if he plays, Algier. And that's how they get the win tomorrow. And look, if they do that, honestly, there's really not much you can say. Miami cannot defend the run. They can't. So it's either that, and there's a lot of ways this thing could go, and we'll see how it works out tomorrow. But there's a lot of ways that this could go. But now it begs the question: is this being done with the right intentions or not? That's what you got to ask yourself. Now, I came on here and I said, after the game, there's probably about a 60% chance Kirk will start versus the Dolphins. That kind of shifted throughout the week. It sounded like they were going to let Penix play, but then we saw a shift yesterday, and obviously we got the news today. So once again, and another thing too, I want to point out, at the end of that San Francisco game, Penix actually did look beat up. He really looked beat up. So that's what makes me think that this is actually being done with the right intentions. This is being done with the intention to let him heal for a week. Because, man, already with Penix's prior injury history, you got to take precautions. And even for later in his career, you're always probably going to have a viable backup. So we even saw, with Matt Ryan. And Matt Ryan missed 3 games his whole career. But especially later in his career, Matt Ryan always had a viable backup in Matt Schaub. So you're always going to need that viable backup for Penix in case something like this happens. And he has to take a game here or there. Something happens. That's just the reality of it. We saw him get absolutely blown up because our O-line got beaten around all night in San Francisco. They did not take him out late. They continued to let him get beat up. And once again, that goes back to poor management. So, yes, I could clearly see Penix is beaten up. Do I think the Falcons are making the right decision starting Kirk tomorrow? Yes, I do. But I still have my questions about, are you doing it with good intentions, or are you taking this opportunity and are you going to try to flip a script to potentially save your jobs and cover up what you really can or can't do? Is this just for Zach Robinson trying to make things look good for himself before he goes off to Oklahoma State next year? So that's what I'm saying. Let me see this comment. Oh, well, yeah, they're going to wait till, listen, if I'm going to make this very clear. Raheem Morris is going to be back as head coach next year, most likely. He will. I'm not having the fire Raheem conversation because I think it's stupid. I don't think he should have been hired in the first place, but it's stupid. They're going to give Raheem 3 years, at least. Especially, the only way I think Raheem gets fired at the end of the season is if he has the same record or worse. And even if that, it's probably going to kind of take an implosion. It'll probably take like 7 wins or less. He could probably even match the same win total he had last year. He'll still probably stay. He'll just be required to make some further changes. I don't think Arthur Blank wants to do the same dance he did just 2 years ago. I really don't. And he shouldn't have ever hired Raheem Morris in the first place. But at the end of the day, the Falcons, they're going to lay. The only way that I truly think Raheem Morris gets fired is, once again, 7 wins or less. That's the only way. You also got to remember that getting rid of Raheem, essentially, you're not, listen, I'm telling y'all, you're not letting Terry Fontenot see a third head coach. You just can't. I think Terry's built an amazing roster, but you can't let the end of the day, you're not going to let him see a third head coach. I just don't see them doing that, especially with Rich McKay still looming around. So Raheem will probably be back. And I'm looking at this schedule we have. I think the Falcons will at least find their way to the point where Raheem is back next year. Zach probably won't be back, so we'll probably end up having as our offensive coordinator next year the guy who we're going against tomorrow, and Mike McDaniel. He's going to be our offensive coordinator next year. He was already here. It's just like the Ulbrich thing. Now, I'll say this about Mike McDaniel. I think he's a better offensive coordinator, but Mike McDaniel loves to run the pistol as well. So I really don't know how much change we would be getting from that aspect. I do think he is definitely better than Zach Robinson, but he likes to run a lot of pistol also. The Falcons need somebody in here who is actually willing to see. That's going to be the biggest issue. How do you make adjustments? You have to make adjustments if you want to win week after week. And if you notice, all the games that the Falcons have lost, really dating back to last year, has been because they don't make proper adjustments. They don't fix what they need to fix, and if they're up, they don't continue to build off of what's working a lot of the time. When they do build off of what's working, they end up winning. But there's a lot of times we see Zach Robinson come out and you see something that's working for a little bit, but then he goes back to the same bonehead decisions, bonehead play calling. We're seeing it. The Falcons don't don't make adjustments. We clearly see they love to take the ball at the start of every game. There's a reason that most teams don't do that. The strategy is always you want to get ahead. You want to get that ball in the second half and you want to get ahead if you win the coin toss. It's always been the strategy. The Falcons, no, we're going to come out on time. We're going to come out and we're going to get a lead. Listen, you have seen that your defense is going to come out and set a tone. They're going to hold up. So this whole strategy, and it's not changing. The Falcons continue to double down on things whether it works or not. A lot of these things don't work. And once again, I'm warning y'all. It's at the end of the day, you got to win the games you're supposed to. This really isn't and this is a game that you should win. So you do not risk the health of your young quarterback. But I'm telling y'all right now, it's going to be a 5-game stretch at the end of the year that's going to determine if the Falcons are in the playoffs or not. It's going to be the 5 games in the year. That's going to determine. And if the Falcons want to win those 5 games at the end of the year, you're going to have to get your head out of your ass. And you're going to have to do these things you haven't been doing. But this is the reason why so many people don't have confidence in the team. Because of the failures to do stuff like this. But you're really beaten up heading into this game tomorrow. You are. And with your bye week already passed, man, it's really unfortunate. You already have Diablo on IR. 2 out of your 4 starting rookies on defense. One of them was your first round pick is missing games. Now you got Drake who's out. Penix is beat up. It's a spot where you got to get healthy soon. So this is not a game you take risks with. That's understandable. But once again, are you going to do what's right? Do you have the right intentions? Or are you going to create more dysfunction? Is your solution to the dysfunction you've already created going to be more dysfunction? And look, knowing the Falcons' track record, it's very hard to be encouraged to say that they will do the right thing. But I'm going to hold out hope that in this situation they will. They're going to, give Penix the breather. The side of the fan base that is obsessed with Kirk Cousins are going to let them see him tomorrow. Then you bring Penix out, you shut those people up, you start to get him rolling. That also includes starting to actually call the game in a way that is favorable to him. But once again, what do we know? What do we know? But yeah, looking at just some other things for tomorrow, man. Looks like Drake London is questionable. I don't know if he's going to play or not. Wouldn't shock me if he doesn't. Tyler Algier is questionable. And that's why I say we are really beaten up in this game. But it's never. You're never in an appropriate situation to be beaten up, but if there ever was a game that you should win in spite of all the injuries, it's a game like this, and you're at home. Now, I'm going to tell y'all, it probably is not going to be a very high turnout game. Because, number one, if you would have beaten San Francisco now, you probably could have gotten more people to come out to the game. But because you weren't able to beat San Francisco because you and also, man, it's going to be overcast tomorrow. It's starting to get a little chilly down here. Essentially, It's a day to stay in and watch football, and that's about what I expect. It's going to be a day for people to stay in and watch football tomorrow. So, yeah, man, that's that's really about it. I wasn't planning on this being long. I mean, if y'all want to come in and say a word, the link is in there. But that's really it. Kirk's going to start, and we're going to see if this is a. We're going to see if this is just doing what's right by Michael Penix, or if this is going to be a power play by this coaching staff to try and save their jobs. So, yeah, but as far as tomorrow goes, we'll probably see the Falcons once again. It's going to look like a lot of other games. We're going to lean big on our best player, best Bijan. Especially if Algiers out, we're going to see a lot of Bijan. I'm telling y'all right now that this is another dangerous thing, though. The Falcons are putting themselves in a position, especially on offense, to where they'll only go as far as Bijan Robinson takes them. That can't be how your offense goes. It can't be. Listen, as great of a player as Bijan is, have you ever seen Kansas City it be how far a position player takes them? No. It can be said it's how far Mahomes takes them. But even with Mahomes out, Andy Reid is a damn good coach. It's a full operation over there. Everyone plays a part. It's not 80% this guy and then 20% everybody else. That's been the thing with the great teams. We're kind of learning that with Philadelphia, learned that the hard way. They leaned in so much on Saquon last year, they thought they could do it this year, and teams have had an answer for Saquon. So that's why they've had so many issues getting their receivers going. You notice, man, the great Detroit, it's never about one guy in Detroit. They got like 3 or 4 guys that can kill you on offense. Those great Patriots teams back in the day. Man, it was never about one guy. Tom Brady used to throw to janitors, and they'd be winning Super Bowls. If you ever try to listen, ask the Panthers how it worked out with Christian McCaffrey over there when they tried to make everything about him. Ask them. That one season CMC went off, had 1,000 rushing yards, 1,000 receiving yards. They had 5 wins that season. That didn't work out for anything. He was a great player, and Bijan's an amazing player. I think as long as Bijan stays healthy, and that is the key, because there's about 1 or 2 plays every game that scares me to about death with Bijan. As long as he could stay healthy, he can truly go down as one of the greatest running backs, I think, in NFL history. But even still, it can never be about one player. Because as much as I love seeing Bijan Robinson love the football, I love seeing the Falcons win more. It's always going to be how it is. Now, is tomorrow probably a game that Bijan could win you? Yes. That's not how it's going to be every week. So that's another thing. Whatever you see tomorrow versus the Dolphins is not what you can expect every week. It's not. If we see this offense come out and score 40 points, knowing the Falcons, it's definitely possible, especially now with Kirk at quarterback. Don't think that, it's time to hand the keys over to Kirk, because it's not. It just means that the Falcons decide to have a showcase game and beat down on a horse that already has 2 broken legs, which is what they should do. But then it's going to raise the question, if you decide to call a good game for Kirk, okay, but why aren't you doing this every week. Why did it feel like against San Francisco you were essentially trying to get cute and steal their game plan to stick it to them? Whenever you try to do that against another team, that works about 0% of the time. And San Francisco is a way better coach team. They have way better coaches than we do. Shanahan, Saleh, they're better than any of y'all. The only one on this coaching staff that's really shown anything this year has been Ulbrich. That's it. Zach's been absolute garbage. And if Zach is garbage, I can only imagine what the next guy on this coaching staff looks like. You're telling me that you have faith in TJ Yates being the offensive coordinator when he's got his hands involved in basically everything else on this offense, and he's not getting it done? Isn't TJ Yates the quarterback coach? Because I know they have him with several titles, but I think he's the quarterback coach. If so, how come is it that we're seeing Michael Penix behind on a lot of certain things? Okay. So he's the passing game coordinator. So, matter of fact, let me do something. Let me pull it up. We're gonna go through this entire coaching staff, because as much as we're criticizing Zach Robinson, let's not act like there's anything better under him. So, let's see. What do we have? Let me see. Give me something to work with. All right. Okay. All right. So, so let's look at. So obviously, this is the head of the offense. Let's see. What do we have? We got pass game specialist. This guy. Damn, I'm kind of shocked Jerry Gray's still with us. We have. Is there a way to specifically point out these guys like this offensive coaching staff? Okay. So we got Kramer. This is the only offensive coach that I'll give credit to, and I think is worth anything. I've been giving this guy his flowers for years. Dwayne Ledford is the only coach I think worth a damn on this offense. So I'm about to completely exempt him from this conversation. Honestly, I wouldn't even mind making him offensive coordinator. If it's not McDaniel, I wouldn't mind if it's Dwayne Ledford. We may have a awful passing game, but at this point, man, at least the work that he's done with this offensive line, this running game, I can respect. All right, where are our guys at? So DJ Williams is the quarterback coach. So this guy right here is the guy who's supposed to be working with Michael Penix. Supposed to be showing him how to have his feet established in the pocket, what his footwork should be like. And that this is the guy to hold accountable. TJ Yates. We clearly see he's been here for years. He was here with the last coach. He ain't shit. Let me see. Who else do we got? I'm trying to actually look at some of this stuff. So, let me see. Okay. This is another guy right here I want to actually touch on. Associate Director of Strength and Conditioning. Was he? What was he Penix's quarterback coach at Washington? Hold on. If this is the case, because once again, no, he wasn't. I kind of figured this out. He was actually. This is what I'm saying. You need to get all these guys from the Aints out of here. This motherfucker was with the Aints, so get him out of here. But man, look, for real. There are some guys we're looking at as to why Michael Penix has not been. Why basically it looks like this year there's been a step taken back. Of course, teams are going to gather film on you. So how are you going to evolve? Of course, Penix has to have some work done. You never get, listen, you think you have the complete package when you first get them, but then you see. You're seeing it with Jane Daniels. You especially saw it with CJ Stroud. You see these guys. You think they're the complete package, but then you really actually get to seeing them. You see that teams really just didn't have a film on them, and honestly, you had a little bit of you just had some magic in the bottle. You caught some lightning. You rided it out as much as you could until there was no more. You overperformed. Everyone was blowing smoke up your ass. You come out the next year. Teams have figured you out. Luck isn't on your side as much. You're in the position Washington is in, or you're in the position Houston's in. And not every team gets that. Honestly, if we're going to talk about it, the quarterback from the 24 draft class that probably is in the best position, there's two of them actually that's probably in good positions, the best positions. That's Drake May and Bo Nix. Bo Nix has one of the best offensive minds the NFL has maybe seen in Sean Payton. Sean Payton is getting every single ounce he can out of Bo Nix. And you see Denver, they're leading that division right now because of it. With Drake May, he is set up basically in the same situation that Tom Brady, who is the greatest of all time, was set up in. Josh McDaniels as his offensive coordinator, and a hell of a head coach who is going to win you games. And even Caleb Williams is now in a better situation. You've seen him progress a little bit with Ben Johnson. Now, it still is not perfect. You're not seeing Caleb Williams take the NFL by storm this year. But you're seeing it get better. Yeah, we are failing Penix. We are. We are failing him. Now, I'm not going to totally act like Penix isn't in some ways, just he is honestly having some shortcomings. And it was pointed out to me by someone who, I've grown a lot of respect for recently and really got to know very well, that Penix was basically a breath of fresh air to this team at the end of last year. And the more I think about it, the more that is right. At the end of the season, defenses are tired. And, quarterbacks, essentially, if you make a change, especially to a young one, they can be a breath of fresh air. There's not a lot of tape on them. Defenses get tired. And it can give you a lot of excitement. But, man, that's only going to carry me so much with that argument. I'm like, okay. Some of these things, of course, yes, they're taken away from Penix as they've really seen now what he works with well. But at the same time, man, you really mean to tell me that some of this stuff is not on Zach Robinson? We saw at the end of last year Michael Penix use the middle of the field. We haven't seen any of it this year. None. The most I can probably say the Falcons used the middle of the field was against Buffalo. It's one of the smoothest operations we've seen from this offense all year, especially in the first half. It's the best half of football they played on offense all year. They had 2 weeks to prepare for it. So once again, I'm going to ask the question: what services are we doing Michael Penix by right, and what disservices are we doing that are wrong to Michael Penix? What exactly is it? And are there the right intentions behind this move? That's just what is going. That's what is going to continue to lurk in my mind. Do the Falcons truly just have the right intentions? Could Michael Penix use a little bit of a reset? Sure, he could. He's gonna get this opportunity to see things a little differently. Let's see. I'm gonna go through the chat in a second. We run plays in practice that we don't use in the real game. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Man, shout out to Dirty Man. Hey, y'all might see a little something from me and Dirty tomorrow. Might just might. Not gonna give y'all too much. Let's see. Zach Robinson should have already been fired, but no, it was a wide receiver coach's fault. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. Raheem Morris probably should have never been hired in the first place. That's the only reason Zach Robinson's here. And you should wait until the end of the season for that, because then Ulrich would probably leave if he's promoted to interim and then demoted. Yeah, they won't. I think Raheem will be back next year, honestly. Raheem needs to work on his clock management. We know, we've been known that, and he ain't yet. So at this point, you just got. There's just some stuff, man. I'm going to say this. There are some things that at this point, this roster is going to have to overcome. There's just some things that this roster is going to have to really overcome in spite of their coach. It's very hard to do, but this is a good roster. This is a roster that could get to the playoffs. Like or dislike Kirk Cousins, what bothers me about the coaching is that oftentimes when it's brought up of Penix being benched, they act too much like it's a possibility that Penix can be benched. Well, see, and that's the thing. They act like it's impossible, but then all of a sudden they do it. It's like 1 second, they never let things develop. And Penix should not be benched. Penix should be the option, but this is where you got to ask yourself, why is Penix being benched even why do we even have to worry about, could this be a potential soft benching and doing a disservice to Michael Penix? Why? Because once again, if you were really just coming out and you were putting out your best game plans for Michael Penix and you were working with him, and you're not going to come out every week and have the perfect game. But if you were coming out like Sean Payton does and week after week getting everything you can, see, that's the thing. The best of the best, from McVay to Shanahan to Sean Payton to Andy Reid, they get the best of the best each and every week out of what they have. All the other coaches, they don't do that, including Raheem Morris. He clearly does not do that. You think the competition can be good? Well, I'll say this. You can't have a quarterback competition in the middle of this season. That was, if you need to have a quarterback competition, you should have done that in training camp. You should not be waiting until it. Now, this is where, once again, do you take that entire training camp seriously? It's one thing to not play starters in the preseason. I don't even want to talk about that. But do you take training camp seriously enough? Because it's very easy to be a snake oil salesman and perform the act at that point. But what really matters is once the ball kicks off week one. And we've seen that the Falcons, at this point, It's very dangerous. They could win against anybody that they put their mind to. They can lose to anybody that they put their mind to. It's all about where your mind is and how prepared they are. And if this team is actually coached up. Because if you get like you got versus that Carolina game where they were out of Magic City all week, they were out the night before partying, you're gonna get results like that. But if you get a team that was locked in versus 2 weeks, like you could clearly see, comes out and beats the reigning league MVP and a Buffalo team that's been one of the best in the NFL for the past couple of years, that is the team that still it leaves you with a little bit of hope. As sad as it is, it leaves you with just the tiniest bit of hope of what could come together. Call a game favorite of Kirk Cousins is fireable. Let's see. It isn't DJ Williams as the head coach. No, I agree. Yeah, because the head coach is supposed to make sure everything's going according to plan. But DJ Williams is also the one specifically working with Penix. So you got to look at him too. We're failing Penix. Yeah, we are. We're absolutely failing Penix. You got a quarterback who, you're getting good and bad from, but at the end of the day, has shown promise. He has shown promise for, exciting enthusiasm and long-term stability, probably the most that you have had since the end of Matt Ryan. See, we run plays in practice. We don't use a real game. We don't have the right coaching staff. Yeah, but see, here's the sad thing about that. Now at this point, the thing is, you got to roll with that. You're gonna have to roll with it. That's a bet that you made, and now you have to lay in it. You wetted it when you were making it, so now it's time to lay in it. I just can't wait to see this. Yeah, look, I can't either, but I don't know how we're gonna do that if we're continuing to have a conversation about quarterback. Raheem said he don't coach defense or offense. Can you tell me what Raheem does? He can't even coach, right? What is his purpose? So Raheem is basically like a CEO in an instance. He comes in, he makes sure everything is running right. He's the head guy. He is like the CEO. If the business is failing, the CEO takes responsibility. This is really how I do think or at least a lot of head coaches should be. There's only, I think, a handful of head coaches who I think are just so good at actually calling games that, yes, they should have play calling duty. There's about maybe 4 or 5 of them. McVay, Shanahan, Sean Payton, Andy Reid, and I'd probably put Kevin O'Connell in there. Those are really the only ones. So really, at the end of the day, I do think the CEO approach, I mean, it's how Pittsburgh has been for many years of Mike Tomlin. And look, they're not winning playoff games, but they're having good seasons. And they're also in a much tougher conference, by the way. Man, if you just told me that year after year we would have a chance to, have good teams and you go into the playoffs, man, I would take that because that's a start. It's really a start, man. So, but at the end of the day, like if the business is failing, it's bringing in negative reports each quarter. If you bring in negative reports for about a whole year, the CEO is getting on. So that's pretty much the role of Raheem. That's why I say when it's going well, it's so easy to look at Raheem and be proud to have him as your coach. But when he's failing, that's all. It's equally as easy to look at his ass and want him out of here. Because that's just how it goes. He's not calling play. Raheem's duties is to make sure that he manages the clock properly, which he does not do. So that really goes against him. That's why clock management is really shit. That's why we look at that so critically, because it's really his only major duty in a game. And then just make sure everything else is running right. I'll give him credit for doing the right thing, which it said you got to give people credit for doing the right thing, but sometimes, man, you got to start somewhere essentially. And that's the way I look at it. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna say it one more time. As far as tomorrow goes, I would listen. If we can't beat this Dolphins team tomorrow, then that essentially will, I think, wrap up any hope of this team being able to make the playoffs, which means the season is over. And after that point, man, it's going to be very hard to get people excited about what could be for this team. So you got to win tomorrow. I think this team will. After that, though, it's really how you manage things coming out of the game. And what the intentions you do, and what are your intentions? I mean, yeah. Listen, if you're asking me if I would do it, I mean, of course, if he loses, it's certainly something I would consider if I were running things. But no, I don't think we will. I think we're gonna, regardless, we're gonna wait until the end of the season to make a change. The Falcons have really only fired in recent history one coach at the end of the season, and that's been during the season. That's been Dan Quinn, because through 5 weeks he didn't win a game, and he was already about to be fired the year before. He did himself in. So, look, with all that being said, it's time. It's time to get to bed, man. Let's go get this one tomorrow. Take care of business. If y'all know how I am. Always at the games. You want to come? Say what's up to me, man. You can find me. We'll chat it up. And yeah, I'll be back here tomorrow, probably after the game. So, with that being said, I'll see you all tomorrow after the game. Take care.